all you people taking your hard time from your day to go insult Brett just because you know I'm right. I really appreciate it.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It is once again another great day to discuss other people's excellence. I am the unforgettable one himself, Mr. Brett Carroll. Charles is always daydreaming, and we're two guys that like BS in that work. You know what time it is, another NFL pod. This is probably going to be a depressing episode.
I've been dead for years now. Okay. I'm not depressed. This
is new territory for me, man.
It's been my state of existence for like the better part of the last 10 years. So
yeah, this is new territory for me. Let's just get into it. Let's not even waste no more time. Let's just get right into it. My Steelers suck, or at least my offense sucks, and that bothers me. That bothers me a lot.
Wow, you have Big Ben. You guys are doing great.
We were doing great until Big Ben blew out his elbow, and until we decided that our offensive line was not important. You know what? It's so funny that you're a Giants fan. I'm a Steelers fan, right? The Rooneys and the Maras they're like best friends, right?
Yeah, no, they're close.
They're very close. And I guess for me,
and by all accounts, decent people when it comes to billionaire owners. So
right, exactly. To me, what's bothering me is they've seen how the Giants have struggled by being too loyal to their Hall of Fame quarterback, right? And putting the cart before the horse in terms of not just helping that quarterback, but for the future, right? And what's bothering me is they're doing the same thing. I said it was a mistake to draft Saquon Barkley. Everybody said, no, he's amazing. I said, great, but you have no quarterback. You have no offensive line. He's not going to be able to do anything for you, right? And now, all these years later, now, obviously, it's still early in his career. Who knows? He's still a great player. He has to get healthy. But right now, it's looking like he might be a bust, even though he was one of the greatest running back prospects of his generation, right?
Because of injuries and lacking a complete offensive line being built around him and all the factors that aren't on Saquon. Yes,
exactly. That has nothing to do with him. We drafted Najee Harris this past draft.
At least you know I'm consistent. I like the Saquon pick and I like the Najee Harris pick. So at least you know.
And I'm consistent. I hated the Saquon pick. I hate the Najee pick. Again, not because Najee Harris is not a good player. He's a really good player. But when you cannot run block, Charles, I'm watching this game on Sunday, man. We can't run to save our lives. Every time this dude got more than 2 yards, it was a hold. Every single time. Every time I was, oh, thank you. We had a good run. A flag was out. I said, you got to be kidding me. You're telling me we can't mess around and slip up and have a good run? Like, he caught 14 passes for 100 and something yards because we got to a point where it's like, yo, we cannot run. We have to just throw him the football. That's the only way we're going to get him the football. And it's bothering me. And it's ironic, right? He played well. Despite the fact that he couldn't run, he played well. Our second round pick, Pat Freiermuth, a tight end, he scored his first NFL touchdown. That's why we got him, because he's a red zone threat, right? In Penn State, he literally caught every pass thrown to him in the red zone with a touchdown machine, right? Those were our first 2 picks this year. And I hated them because I said, these guys aren't going to be able to do anything with a no offensive line. Pat Freiermuth, again, I like him. For everything I've heard in camp and in the offseason, they love this kid. They're like, yo, he's going to be great. Cool. But right now, he's there only as a red zone guy. Or not even a red zone line. Not even a red zone dude. A first and goal type of dude, right? 10 yards in, right? Well, guess what? We can't get that far. So he's already out of the picture. Najee Harris is a great running back. He looks like an average running back because we can't run block. And now I'm looking at this team and I'm saying, I understand why you brought Ben back for another year. You had to. The money said you had to. Him retiring was going to screw you in the salary cap.
Sure.
Go get an offensive line. You could have gotten any veteran running back for a year. Obviously, he wouldn't have been your running back of the future, but you could have gotten any running back, veteran running back, to be your guy this year. Or you could have drafted somebody in the 3rd or 4th round as your running back. Najee Harris isn't helping us right now. He is, but he's not, right? And so here's my issue. And I hate to say this. This pains me to say this. Although I don't like Ben Roethlisberger, I never want to see guys go out like this. Ben Roethlisberger, I got the stats right here. He has 399 touchdowns. He's one away from the 400 mark, right?
Compiler.
He is only like 213 yards away from passing Dan Marino for 6th all time in yards, right? Fine. We play at Green Bay. We're probably going to lose. Do the same thing you did against the Bengals. Let him throw it 60 freaking times until his arm falls off.
Imagine if I texted you over the weekend, like, just look at the positives of this Bengals loss. The curses that you would have said.
No, because here's the difference. There were no positives. There were no positives. There were 0 positives.
Yo. Okay. So real quick.
Well, hold on. Let me just do this. Let me just do this, right? If I'm the Steelers, I let him play. I let him throw it. I don't care if he throws it 100 times. Matter of fact, don't even run the ball. Throw it every freaking time that game. Make sure he gets his touchdown. Make sure he gets over 215 yards. Then Kevin Colbert, the GM, Art Rooney II, the owner, Mike Tomlin, the head coach, give him a big hug. Say thank you for everything you've done for this organization. We love you. Your number 7 will be in the Raptors. Will be in the Ring of Honor this season. We're not even going to wait any longer. We'll see you in Canton. Sit his behind down and put Dwayne Haskins in. You have to do that for a few reasons. You need to see if you at least have your bridge quarterback. I'm not saying Dwayne Haskins could be our heir apparent, even though he's young enough where you would say, well, he could be. I think we've seen enough of him to know he's not a franchise quarterback, right? But you have to at least see if he can at least be your bridge guy for the next 2 or 3 years. Because this offseason, you can't, I don't want us to even think about a quarterback. We have to get our offensive line together. Because no matter who we bring in at quarterback, they're not going to be able to perform with this offensive line. They're just not. Not to mention this year's draft class is looking just as bad, if not worse, than what people were predicting. I mean, Spencer Rattler is already falling to like the bottom of the first round, and Sam Howell is not even like projected to be a first round pick anymore. And those are the 2 dudes that are supposed to go 1 and 2 in this year's class. So this year's draft class is looking worse than projected earlier. So I don't even want us to think about a quarterback.
Did you hear that?
No. What happened? Is that the Steelers probably saying hell?
No, that's not even. I'm not even doing a joke. Like, I don't know what the fuck that was. It was like sirens going off, but it was like steady. It was really weird. That was, my wife heard it too. So I'm not like schizophrenic, guys. Like,
I don't know, but that's what the Steelers have to do. They have to sit him down. They have to play Dwayne Haskins, because Mason Rudolph is nothing more than a quality backup. Cool, but you got to see if Dwayne Haskins could at least be an NFL starter. He doesn't have to be a superstar, just an NFL starting quarterback. That is super duper important. Like, you play him.
All right. You almost went the first 10 minutes of this pod talking about your Steelers. You're very passionate about it, and it's beautiful because you're a real Steelers fan. But the follow-up on last week's question that I posed, you're obviously a fraud, because look how passionate you are about these Steelers when there's been Panthers news and they've been good. And if you were equally,
I'm getting to all that.
I know, but I have to do this now. I just wanted to show how your real fanhood is your pain in the Steelers right now. Because if it was if it was equal, the Panthers would be like, you'd be coming out here like, yo, rabble, Sam Darnold,
Wait, come on. 1, I'm going to get to that. 2, the Panthers game was on Thursday. So as happy as I am for the Panthers game, it's been almost a week now already. The Steelers game, that's still fresh.
It's a more fresh emotion for you.
Yeah, yes, right. It's still fresh.
Good save.
And it's very funny because my transition to the Panthers is going to be like, I was going to bring up last week, and I was like, you know what? This is one of those times where I'm going to say, yeah, if they played each other, I'm rooting for the Panthers because the Panthers look legit.
Let me commiserate with you before we talk about the Panthers, because like we do want to talk about the Panthers just as 2 football fans. Let me commiserate with you. So this weekend I was at a wedding. So Sunday, it was a Sunday wedding. So Sunday, when the 1:00 games were on, me, my wife, our friends were pre-gaming before the wedding. I'm sitting there in a suit, looking like a drunk insurance salesman, cursing at my Giants. And it clicked. Like, I was so numb. I was still mad. I was still cursing. I was still yelling at the TV like every Giants fan. But you know how fucking pathetic the Giants are when you drop that little points on Atlanta, like this version of Atlanta. Do you know how fucking terrible you are when you lose to Atlanta at home, when we're honoring Eli Manning, when we can't even wake up for this moment? And it's not a big moment. It's a big game because we're two bad teams that don't want to go get 0-3. And you guys don't even show up for that. I'm smiling and smirking at everything you're saying about the Steelers because it's like, oh, join the club. Oh, you don't like when a big play gets called back because your shit O-line has a holding call. You don't like when a run happens and some egregious holding is happening, like to the point where even as a fan, you're like, oh my God. We couldn't score more than 20 points on Atlanta. And these are the same people that were trying to be like, oh, positive. Look at the positives to the Washington football loss, yada, yada, yada. Okay. Daniel Jones looks really good finding open men within 10 to 15 yards. I'll give him that. That little mid-range game he had, he was hitting those guys and getting in between, the routes and all that in between the seams. And Kenny Golladay looked okay. He looked like a number one when he got the ball. He was at least trying to make something happen. Why is Evan Ingram still a Giant? That was the only thing I think I put on my social media during the game was, why is Evan Ingram still on this team? I don't usually call for people's jobs, but I know if I sucked as much as he did in the last 4 years, I wouldn't have my job because you don't catch it. It's not like you're dropping contested to where it's like, all right, man, you got to get those. Those would be 50-50, yada, yada. Dude drops open catches when it hits him in both hands.
Oh, yeah, that's like Eric Ebron, who dropped a touchdown pass yesterday that changed the whole momentum of the game.
And I'm not trying to completely switch to the Giants. I'm just glossing over it because it's not a story. You were annoyed at me last year when I was like, bro, I don't know how much I'm going to be able to talk about the Giants every week. I'm going to sound like a broken record. So I just want to say, like everything you kind of said about the Steelers, copy and paste, but take out Big Ben, but same type of problem because Daniel Jones is crap, but he's good enough to be a bridge quarterback. I do not think he's the answer. Granted, if we get an offensive line and he starts lighting it up, I'll eat the crow because I'll be happy. I want him to succeed. I don't want him to suck. I just don't see it. And you asked the question about Dwayne Haskins. We know he's not a franchise quarterback. If we know Dwayne Haskins isn't a franchise quarterback, so what's the questions about Daniel Jones? Because the dude still be dropping balls and dropping snaps.
But again, I think it's the same thing with you guys. I think you guys got to bring him back next year and fix the O-line. Because at the end of the day, like I said, this year's quarterback group, you're basically bringing back another Daniel Jones.
You have the question, Mason or Dwayne Haskins. And with Mason, I feel like with similar to Daniel Jones, there's been enough of a sample size. You know what you got. At least with Dwayne Haskins, and I'm playing devil's advocate like 80% here, that at least with him, you are the Steelers. You're not the Redskins or the Washington football team. You're not that organization. You have a history of getting the best out of players. And Dwayne Haskins, I feel, if he got his mind right, he has to play better. He broke Big Ten records at Ohio State. He broke Ohio State records. And I'm saying that because that's not just a random school that he was breaking records at. It wasn't Duke. It wasn't Utah. It wasn't BYU. It was fucking Ohio State. So there's talent there. And if you're going to try for Dwayne Haskins. Even if he was a bridge quarterback, if he plays that.
Right, but that's why I said I'm not even worried about Mason Rudolph. You know what he is. Put Dwayne in, see if his athleticism, his arm strength could at least give this offense some juice. Again, I'm not expecting greatness because that offensive line, nobody's going to be great with that offensive line. Mm-hmm. But if he can give this offense some juice, if we can score them more than one touchdown, bro, we're only averaging one touchdown a game from our offense. People forget we beat Buffalo by scoring 23 points. That's because we had a punt block for a touchdown. You know what I mean? So our offense isn't doing anything. We need our offense to at least be what our as good as our defense is. You don't need to score 40 points. You just need to get in the 20s, and you should be in every game that you're playing in. Can he do that for you? Right? Can he be somebody that can get you 2 to 3 touchdowns a game with consistent drives instead of 3 and out, and then the only time we score is last 2 minutes of the half, where people are playing prevent defense and it's so much easier to move up and down the field. You know what I mean? Like that's the biggest thing that I want to see if Dwayne Haskins can do that. Because again, this year, I don't want to even think about quarterback. Go get that offensive line. And if he sucks, then you know that you have to go bring in a veteran, which will be easier. Ben's money will be off the books. Juju's money will be off the books. So if you have to get a Teddy Bridgewater or somebody like that to be that bridge guy, you can do that. But I think we need to play the bridge game for the next 2 or 3 years. Hopefully that's Dwayne Haskins. right? Hopefully you don't have to bring anybody else. Hopefully Dwayne Haskins shows that he can be your bridge guy for the next 2 or 3 years. Because once again, I said it last week, I see it again. We need a wide receiver too. Like we need a number one. We need a dude. We don't have a dude. We have a bunch of good guys. We don't have that guy. But again,
I'll trade you Kenny Galladay for a couple picks.
Nah. I need like an elite wide receiver. I need an elite wide receiver.
Oh yeah, they're just hanging around.
No, you're gonna have to draft one. But again, you can't do that this year. Your first, second, and probably third round pick has to be offensive line.
So why wouldn't? And this is me just power of hindsight. So don't act like this is some genius that I think that they should have foreseen. But you didn't go after Julio Jones. You didn't go after D.O.P.E. You know what I mean? Like
we didn't have the money. We could. That's what I'm saying. They're not going to be able to trade for one. They're not going to be able to bring one in free agency. They're going to have to draft one in the next couple of years, which is fine. Again, our wide receiver group is good, and if you get your offensive line together, they'll be better. But at the end of the day, drops were once again too many drops in critical situations where on this offense you can't afford that. You know what I mean? Like you cannot afford drops on third down, fourth down in the red zone. You cannot afford that with this offense. We need to be perfect for this offense to work, right? And these guys drop way too many passes, and we don't have a consistent guy that's like, yo, at the end of the day, I'm throwing it to him because I know for a fact he's gonna come through for me. We need that. We're gonna have to draft a guy like that, but you can't do that this year. You have to put all your resources into getting an offensive line together. See what the next year, see what that looks like. Because of the offensive line, is Dwayne Haskins better? Because of the offensive line, can we run better? And because of the offensive line, is our wide receivers better? If not, then you can start thinking about, okay, quarterback, wide receiver, all that other stuff. But you're not going to even know that until you get that offensive line together.
So
it's just that simple.
To go back to what you were saying earlier about the two organizations of our teams, the problem with the Giants, and this might be coming down the road with you sooner than later, as we saw with our quarterback situation. The problem with the Giants, and I heard this on ESPN the other day, is that the Maras and the ownership are stuck in what they think a good coach is supposed to be. That Tom Coughlin-esque type of mold, old school, yada, 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 sounds like a coach, looks like a coach, does all the coach things that was right back in the fucking 70s. They're not looking for an innovator. They're not looking for the guys that the Carolinas bringing in or Arizona's bringing in. They're looking for the same old Jim Fossil types. No wonder why we suck. You guys are still trying to find coaches that are wannabe Bill Belichick's that want to do the 3 clouds and a pound of dust or whatever. And that's not how the league works. Right. Like the Saquon thing is a scapegoat. I fire Dave Gettleman. That is one thing I do want to say. And all people deserve to lose their job on the Giants. It is the general manager. Because
Kevin Colbert, thank God, is retiring because he's garbage too.
Like with the Giants, all the stuff with Saquon, you could say bad pick, yada, yada, yada. But guess what? Our running back lasted longer than the quarterback that was taken after it. So, like, I don't know how to do the metric on that draft. It wasn't like that was an earth-changing draft. But one thing for damn sure, the Giants picked a generational talent. What they failed to do was build a line around him. Because as far as weapons go, the Giants have weapons. I don't want to hear the Giants don't have weapons. Even the rookie, Kadarius Toney, when you get him the ball and you set up a play, he can make some moves. So, general manager, head coach, Joe Judge didn't have an offseason last year, and he got more wins than I expected. So I'm not trying to call for his job just yet, but I am saying that the offense, you couldn't put up 21 against the damn Falcons at home.
Yeah.
Like that's terrible. Somebody needs to lose their damn job.
I was texting the group chat last night. Even last night, you're watching Jalen Hurts struggle against the Cowboys. And I was like, yo, the Falcons shouldn't even be in the league, man. They should go to the minor leagues. They suck. They made Jalen Hurts look like
I thought the same thing. I said, because remember, I was big on Jalen Hurts. It's on the pod that I thought Jalen Hurts was getting disrespected when they were saying he was going to go in the 3rd round. I was like, yo, he's one of the better quarterbacks in college. And we're talking about this BYU kid, like he's the next coming, but Jalen Hurts sucks. Okay, whatever. I'm not saying he's going to be some franchise quarterback, but he's obviously better than people said I was overrating him. He's a starting quarterback in the league, and you saw what he did to Atlanta. He did that to Atlanta. Daniel Jones, and it's not all his fault. The O-line, yada yada yada, the vanilla play calling. like using Saquon Barkley like he's Reggie Bush and not Saquon Barkley. It's an amalgam of all these terrible issues mixed with, okay, Joe Judge, like there's things that I like, there's things that I don't like, but the squad wasn't motivated to dominate that day. Like, I'm not trying to act like, they all play with Eli and there's some love there that isn't. Like, I know it's a while ago. It's 10 years since the second ring he won. But
I do think that's a good point, though. The people that he won those games with, they're not there anymore. So they have no attachment to that. So for them, and that's the weird thing, like,
yeah, but I'm not saying that they need to have this love for Eli that's manufactured, but you're a New York Giant. You played on the New York Giants.
It's the culture is just bad.
Yeah, and you couldn't go in that locker room and get them fired up like, hey, guess what? You want a ring? You want to be great? You want to be remembered forever? Well, guess who's being remembered forever? The guy that was here that won too. And he didn't always have a great team around him, but he was always there. He always showed up and he played. He executed when you needed him to execute. That's what he's remembered for.
But again, I think it's the culture. Like, I talked about it, the Hall of Fame game, right? I mean, the Hall of Fame ceremony. There were so many Steelers fans there. There were so many Steelers there. And that's all everyone talked about, the culture, the history, the fact that when you came there, you knew that you were in Pittsburgh, this is different. And I think it's one of those things where, one, it's a new generation of player, right? They don't care about that stuff, which I think in football does mean something because you're running into somebody full speed, right? You need to get up for that. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, it's one of those sports you can't half-ass that. So I think that's part of it too. This new generation, they don't understand and cherish that enough, for the history of being a Giant, the history of being a Steeler, because those are two more respectable organizations over the last decade or so. Like you said, the Giants have been, off the wagon, but before that, the Giants were one of the most respectable organizations in football, right? The Steelers are considered to still be that.
Well, that happened because of a big reason, because of the winning years with Eli. Right. Like, before that, like we're a weird age when it comes to the respect the Giants have. Because if you're a little bit older than us, 7, 8, 9 years older than us, you have a memory of the Giants being trash before they won that first ring. Like, trash. No one ever talks about the 1970s Giants, and it's for good reason. Because, like, they're not going to talk about the 2010s Giants for good reason.
Right.
So the culture thing that you're talking about, I don't think it's a generational thing. I think it's what fucking culture are they talking about? With the Steelers, is a little bit different because you guys have been more or less consistently good in your worst times. Even when you sucked, it's sprinkled in between.
Dude, we haven't had a top 10 pick since 2000 when we drafted Plaxico Bears. We haven't had to draft a top 10 pick since 2000,
and that's enough to build somewhat of a culture around, which I think the Steelers still have. Just honestly,
I think they have, especially on the defense, like that. Like when you are a defensive player and you come into that organization, they, you know what I mean? Like,
and that's what's been lost with the Giants. The Giants had a defensive aura around them for most of my life. The younger I was in the 90s, LT was still there. As I got older and started getting into it, and they were my Giants, it was Strahan and Jesse Armstead. When they were winning the ring, it was Strahan, OC, and Tuck. In the second ring, Tuck was there with JPP. We always had some type of defensive culture, and that's been non-existent for a decade. And
that's big.
And you're saying, oh, you can't get up to run into people. That's on coaching too, because the culture is from the top down. And when the top wants this outdated culture that doesn't exist with the rest of the youth, like how you're alluding to, that's where the disconnect is. Because the youth can connect to the past. There's kids that weren't alive for Michael Jordan's career that don't shut the fuck up about him. So don't tell me that, there's some disconnect. They don't like the respect. They love culture. The problem is they don't buy the bullshit you're selling them when it comes to your culture. Because what's the Giants culture?
You gotta prove it. Because you gotta prove it.
What's the Giants culture? Eli was about it. Eli, like, for all the Manning face jokes, not one person when he was getting honored this past weekend was like, why are they honoring him? Everybody was like, Eli. You know what I mean? Like, you showed up every game. I'm just saying, like,
I hope so. He won the 2 rings. Love him or hate him.
Besides the 2 rings, what's the one thing you kind of hear about everything, or that's everything?
Iron Man. He never missed the game. He always went out there. Yeah,
and not one adult in their 30s believes he was never hurt. That's
Right.
not what we're saying. We know how bodies work.
He just never missed a game
Yeah.
until Doofus took him out.
Hey, say his name. It's Mick Dumbfuck.
Let's talk about teams that are winning here, okay?
The Ravens. Oh.
First of all, that was Justin Tucker. Like, I hate the Ravens, but Justin Tucker, man.
Jeez. And the Bengals. They're a winning team, right? They had a good game on Sunday.
They did have a good game. They beat our ass. I mean,
what did Burrow and his college wide receiver core do to you guys? I didn't get to see that game. I just checked in on halftime, saw y'all were losing to the Bengals, and I didn't troll you. I was just like, oof. I was like, this is going to be a conversation when we talk because you just being down to guys. If you don't know, you haven't caught on to our podcast. The one team or two teams that Brett can't stand to lose against. It's not the Ravens. He hates the Ravens. He hates the Browns, but that's because of Browns fans. The disrespect I've heard this man have for the Bengals, I don't get it. I don't have a division equivalent. I guess the closest thing would be Washington because I have no respect for Washington. But Washington has had like semi-success in my life. They've had a season or two. You've murdered the Bengals for pretty much your entire life. Like it's not even really a rivalry. But the hatred, you're like, oh, we only crushed them by 24. We need to step this up.
No,
so when you lose to them
under Marvin Lewis, they were a dirty team. That's why. That's the only reason why. They were very dirty. Montez Perfect, like, nah. But anyway,
but they're the wrong cat team. I'm sorry. You want to talk about the winning culture of the Jaguars?
Let's talk about it. My Panthers 3-0. Sam Darnold doing
my Panthers
thing.
Brandon, if you're listening, I'm sorry. I've called him a fraud too many times already today.
Listen, the Panthers are doing well. I'm very happy for them. CMC getting hurt was obviously a big blow.
He's not on the IR though. As of this recording on the 28th, he is
right, which is good.
IR.
But to me, J.C. Horn was getting hurt was even a bigger deal because you could. That's why, like I said, that's why you drafted Chuba Hubbard. You got Royce Freeman. You can
Chuba Hubbard.
You can, huh?
It's a Chuba Hubbard. That's his name to me. I don't care if it's wrong. It's Chuba Hubbard.
Okay, you can kind of assimilate what CMC does. Obviously, nobody could go replace CMC, but you can still try to do what he does, right? J.C. Horn, that was the one problem with this defense was the back end, right? Their corners, right? Him going down was a big deal. So to your point, when they traded for C.J. Henderson yesterday, that's huge. You know what I mean? That's a huge deal because they only gave up a tight end and a third-round pick to do that, and they're getting a fifth-round pick back.
Solid trade. It's a solid trade.
C.J. Henderson's a really good corner, and they need. And I'm glad that they were like, you know what? We're 3-0. Let's go for it. And I looked at their schedule. I forgot the exact schedule because I haven't seen it since last Thursday when they played. But they can legit go 8-0 before you look at their schedule and say, okay, now it's getting a little dicey. The hardest game they have is next. They play Dallas this week. But the schedule guys are in their favor because they had 10 days to prepare for Dallas, where Dallas just played on Monday night. So they're getting them on a short week, right? So if they win, if they kind of sneak that win at Dallas, the next three opponents after that, I forgot who they are.
It goes. They're at the Cowboys. They're home against the Eagles.
Yep.
Then it's the Vikings. And that's a home game. Then they're away at the Giants. That's a W. And
right, but that's what I'm saying. So they could go 4-0. They could go 8-0.
Then it's the Falcons, the Panthers, and then the Cardinals. So it's not until you get to the Cardinals, because stop overhyping the Patriots. I'm sorry, I meant to say the Patriots, not the Panthers. The Patriots aren't these world beaters. And the way the Panthers are playing, they can definitely beat the Patriots. The Patriots are not the old Patriots. They have a good defense. They're not unstoppable.
Right.
Or,
so those are all wins you can get before CMC and JC Horn come back. So I don't want to fall into the trap of, oh my God, this team could be really good. But I'm really starting to think like, yo, this team. I mean, I predicted them. That was my hot take on our first pod that they would make the playoffs. It's starting to look like, yeah, man, not only could they make the playoffs, they might even contend for the division. The way their schedule is lined up, the way they're playing, if they can stay healthy, obviously, and Sam Darnold continues to progress and continues to get better in this offense, they can mess around and win the division. Obviously, the Buccaneers lost their first game yesterday against the Rams.
The Rams look for real.
I'm happy for Matthew Stafford because everybody, like, people have clowned Matthew Stafford his whole career. I'm like, yo, he's a really good quarterback, guys. Oh no, he had Megatron, he couldn't win. I'm like, yeah, okay. Who else did he have? Please name me one other person. Like, please tell me that. Ndamukong Suh. Okay, cool. That's three. That's three players on a 53-man roster. Cool. It's Detroit. Stop it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so happy that he's now in a
poor Detroit. Poor Detroit.
Like poor, yeah. Like I feel bad for Detroit fans. Good God.
But the CJ Henderson trade, that is an interesting trade because if I'm a Jaguars fan, do I like what I got back? Not saying that like you could have got a number one. Okay, Sasha, you could have got a number one for a cornerback in this day and age. That's not, a name like a Jalen Ramsey, but they just drafted Henderson top 10, what, a year ago, 2 years ago? Thank you, Sasha.
The Jaguars, I don't know what they're doing.
No, I'm asking you because like maybe like the tight end kind of, like tight end's a weird position. If you click with your tight end, you could turn him into a Pro Bowler.
Yeah, I mean, Darnold to Arnold was a thing, right?
I like that we do YouTube now so people can actually see how often this happens.
Right. Darnold to Arnold was a thing, right? So that might hurt us because he was really big in our passing game. Although they have other tight ends that they like, which is why they probably figured they can get rid of their best tight end. If you're the Jaguars, I'm guessing the Jaguars are just trying to go 0-17 for whatever reason, hoping that they can trade out of the first pick. But again, I don't think this is one of those drafts that
even if they get the first pick, trading out of it, who's the person that wants to trade up for it?
That's exactly what I was about to say. I don't think this is one of those drafts that somebody's going to give you an arm and a leg to move up for the first pick in the draft. I mean, the guy that's going to be number one is a defensive end, which they could obviously draft. Like it would be a good idea, but I don't know if somebody's going to trade you, 3 first rounders to trade up and get them. And like I said, there's obviously not a quarterback in this year's draft that's worth that. So I don't know what the Jaguars are doing. I really don't.
I don't know. I know. I get why they would trade a corner on a bad team for the assets, right? But the guy you drafted in the top 10 is only worth a third now. Like, I guess, it's not a bad pick. Third round, you can still find good talent. You can still find a Pro Bowler in the third round. I just don't get it. Like, what's the plan? Like, you could have got more because you've got another player. If you said, "Nah, give me your 4th round pick and this guy," like,
unless they're looking at their offense and they're saying we need a tight end to help Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, blocking tight end.
Dan Arnold. Arnold is a receiving tight end. He's a really good. He was in Arizona. The Panthers just brought him in this offseason. He was in Arizona. He was their number 1 tight end. He was Carolina's number 1 tight end. He's going to be a good player for them. So maybe they're saying, you know what, to help Trevor Lawrence's development, we need to get a tight end, another weapon for him. Maybe, maybe that was the thought process, but who knows what Jacksonville does, man.
They are looking like the dumpster fire that they were at the beginning of the decade. You could say forever, but they've had good teams. Yeah. Like Saxonville feels like a million years ago, man. Like it's crazy. Like you had this defense, and if you just kept sucking, like if they did what the Patriots did during COVID, they still end up with Trevor Lawrence.
Instead, they got rid of everybody.
And that's crazy. Like Jalen Rams.
They got rid. To be fair, it was one of those things like they had no choice. A player said, "Get me out of here." It's not like
to go back to apparently what the theme was before. We did not write all this down, but it's a culture thing. They didn't pay the people that made it look like, hey, it looks like it might be fun in Jacksonville because they don't have the state tax. We know on a personal level, you can make more bang for your buck playing in Florida. And you had Saxonville, like that. Just pay them. If you're going to suck, have an exciting, one side of the ball because I just don't get it. The
problem is a good defense will win you games sometimes, and they didn't want to win games. That was the problem. They wanted to make sure they got Trevor Lawrence.
So it's a never-ending cycle of sucking because then we want to make sure we have to get the quarterback of the future, and then you have 0 around the quarterback of the future. You ruin the quarterback of the future. You trade him for less, and then he's better on the other team because they're not complete shit.
Yeah. Like that's what bad teams do, though. They keep putting the cart before the horse, and that's like we said in the opening. That's what's scaring me about the Steelers. They're making mistakes that bad teams make. They're putting the cart before the horse.
Hey, yeah, trust me. It's the weirdest part about all your complaints so far about your Steelers this year are, yeah, I said that 4 years ago about my Giants. Like it's the same thing. That's the shitty part for you. You're watching it, and the only difference is you had a decent team 2 years ago, and you were like, "Oh, Big Ben still got it. Look, we have all these pieces." And then it's just time.
Yeah.
What happened? Is the roster that different?
Yeah, I mean, the offensive line just got worse. I mean, and that's the thing. I still think Big Ben could be a good quarterback, but with that offensive line, he can't do shit.
Oh yeah, when you and just to give people a peek behind the curtain, when Brett sent me the thing, he sent me the notes about, hey, is this the topics you want to talk about? I just completely misread what he was talking about, and apparently the Steelers are playing Green Bay next week, right? But all it said was to Green Bay right under Ben's name. And I'm like, why the fuck would Green Bay want Big Ben? And he's just like, what are you talking about? I was like, look at your notes. You're fucking nuts. You're drinking the black and gold Kool-Aid. You're never going to trade him to the Packers. Like, what are you talking? And you're like, are you stoned? What are you talking about? I was like, I took the screenshot. You're like, oh, I'm an idiot. Like, I'm the idiot, not Brett. I'm the idiot. So, but to talk about what the future possibly is, I don't know, man. Get rid of. You gotta move on. It's the weird feeling because I know how it feels.
And the sad thing is, my biggest fear is they're gonna do the same. They're not gonna let him move on because, like I said, next game he can pass Dan Marino and stuff like that. But if he plays out the season, he can jump Phillip Rivers also for touchdowns and yards. And my thing is,
he's a compiler at this point. It's not even about wins.
Yeah, and it's like that's stupid. That's stupid because again, you need to know now what you have at quarterback. You know Ben's not it anymore. Don't let him play out the season just for a chance. Oh, no, with that 17th game, if he stays healthy, more than likely he will get because I think he needs like 2,300 yards to pass Phillip Rivers. He'll probably get that. And he needs like 22 touchdowns to pass Phillip Rivers. He might get that. So
who cares? That's just one of those things.
That's what I'm saying. Like, who cares?
Who cares? That's for Big Ben and Big Ben only.
He's already going to be in the Hall of Fame. Him passing Phillip Rivers for 5th all time in those two categories. Who cares? It's not going to make him any higher in the Hall of Fame.
So he passed Dan Marino, golf clap. He passed Phillip Rivers, golf clap. Does anyone think he's better in the history book? Like, is that like that's one of those things where you could argue that Marino's better than Big Ben. You take the ring argument away. Even if he has more yards, they'll be like, it's a different era. Marino would smoke Big Ben if he was in the same era. Like, there's still going to be those people. So I don't understand who's it for besides the Steelers saying, look, where our quarterback ended up, which doesn't help you at all.
Right. It's just loyalty. It's just like, hey, we don't want to embarrass him like that. We want to see him finish out his last year. And it's like, bro, but that's not the best thing for the team.
I hope y'all fuck around, lose Tomlin so the Giants can get him because the Giants were looking at
fire Tomlin.
The Giants been looking at Tomlin like this for the last 4 or 5 years, just like, go ahead, fire him.
No. We're not going to fire Tomlin, nor should we. But I think we are going to be stupid and let Ben play this year out when we should let him play next game, get those 2 milestones, and say thank you for the great career. He could play the next game.
Cool. Funny part is, I said this to you, and I'll say it again. If he wasn't Big Ben, if he was anybody else putting up the same similar numbers at his age, he wouldn't even be on the team right now. Like everything that's been based off Ben, even if you want to just say the last 2 years, he wasn't bad, yada yada. He wasn't bad, but he wasn't good enough to definitely have a job. He's damn near Jared Goff.
Well, I mean, he had 33 touchdowns last year, and I mean, but people forget he had a great first half of that year. Again, once the offensive line broke down, he couldn't.
He had most of those touchdowns in that first half when we did discuss if you're pretenders or real contenders. And I was on the side of, I don't think you guys are pretending. I think they're just good. And I'm just saying, looking back on it, you weren't. You weren't as good as I thought you were. You weren't as good as you thought you were. Like, it just, that's how it's worked out. No, and with the benefit of hindsight, we can look back and kind of break down why Big Ben put up those numbers. Because if we do that with this in a good season and during this bad season, do you give a shit if he breaks all these records and y'all are under 500? No. Exactly. So if he did all that shit,
all right. So let me put it this way: Ben is not a bad quarterback. That I think.
Oh no, I didn't mean he's bad. I just meant,
but I think, and that's what the Steelers are going to say too. Like, well, he still gives us the best chance to win. I'm like, bro, we're not winning regardless. Like, yes, he gives us the best chance to win in theory, but we're not winning regardless. Go see what you have in Dwayne Haskins, because he could probably throw for another 30 touchdowns and another 3,000 yards, and you would say, well, that's a good season. But it's like, cool. Well, we're 5-12, and we still don't know what we have in our quarterback, and now we're gonna have to wait till next year to find that out when we could have found that out this year.
and he could put up the same numbers that have kept Fitz Magic in the league all this time. That's what he would be doing. That's what he's been doing, because you guys haven't had a bad team built around him. He just hasn't sucked. Like, it's one of those things where if Eli was on the Steelers the last 5-6 years, like the last versions of Eli, he could have put up those numbers. It wasn't like Big Ben's been running around like he used to.
But that's the point. He can't move the way he used.
That's what I mean. What was the complaint a couple of years ago when Eli was retiring? He's just a statue there. The league's moved on and all this other stuff.
Right, and that's why you had to put Dwayne Haskins in, because even with a bad offensive line, at least he could move around and create himself.
And that's the funniest part about why the Giants didn't pick him, is because he wasn't as mobile as Daniel Jones. The weird part about the Giants being stuck in the past, that was one of the deciding factors, besides obviously attitude, which they had dead on balls accurate, that it was Daniel Jones is mobile, he's sneaky fast, and that just is an X factor that Dwayne Haskins doesn't really have, because the football racism pods we've done in the past, especially around draft time, right? The people that think Dwayne Haskins is a mobile quarterback, and it's like, he's not. He's a pocket passer. He can just, it's one of those, like, he can just run, and then it's like, oh, you think he's black? He's Michael Vick, and because he wears number 7. No, he's not. Like,
right, and again, that's fine. I don't need him to be, Kyler Murray, but I do need him to be able to move outside the pocket and create timing for our receivers to get open, which Ben cannot do anymore.
And I'd do it too, especially if you guys lose.
Yeah, you got go see if he's good.
Yeah.
Again, you don't need him to be the heir apparent. You just need him to be a quality starting quarterback.
Part of me wants him to be great for you guys for 2 reasons: because fuck Washington, and 2, because you hate Ohio State, and then you'd have to be, and then I just get to come on here and record you and edit us talking about how great an Ohio State quarterback is. The poetic justice in the whole story to me is, it's like, just give it to me. If my team's gonna suck, at least let me have that.
Hey, but you know what? The joke will be on you, because I said, "Oh my God, I was wrong about Ohio State." Yeah, I got another ring.
That's what I'm saying. Like, the joke wouldn't be on me. The only way it'd be worse is if he went to the Cowboys and then somehow he blew up. But I don't think he's as good as Dak Prescott. Another, if you wanted to hear the broke clock is right twice a day moment of me giving the Cowboys props. They won last night. They beat the Birds, beat them down. Even though the stats showed a much closer game than it actually was. Check the scoreboard on that one. Dak Prescott, are y'all done hating on him? Because last year I thought it was crazy, because you were like, hey, you think you should pay him? Yeah, pay him.
No, they should pay him. But what's funny? I didn't know this. They are 26-0 when they run more than they pass. And last night was another one of those games. I think that's where people have hate on Dak Prescott, where it's like, okay, you're only great, or you only win when we take the ball out of your hands more. So we know you can drop back and fling with the best of them, but you guys aren't necessarily winning when you do that. Unlike a Patrick Mahomes, unlike a Aaron Rodgers, unlike a Ben Roethlisberger, because we haven't ran the ball well in years. So even whenever we won, it's because Ben Roethlisberger was flinging the ball all over the place. So I think that's the issue with Dak. It's like, yeah, we know you can put up the numbers when you're throwing the ball over the place, but for some reason that does not equate to winning, even though you have 3 great receivers.
Well, I mean, take away the knowledge of, oh, they're running more, right? Like the actual statistical breakdown. I'm talking about when I watch Dak, I never feel like he's going to cost you the game.
Absolutely. He's probably the biggest anomaly in the NFL, because we can't figure him out. It's like, yo, he's a great leader. Like, he has all the traits you want, but for some reason there is something missing there.
I don't think there is. I think what's missing is he's not exactly what you want. And I'm going to give him the same defense I give Lamar Jackson, just to be objective, because everybody listening to the sound of my voice knows fuck the Cowboys. So my honest opinion of Dak Prescott is you guys are trying to look for the negatives because he's not Tony Romo, because he's not this traditional. The same thing I've been bitching about with my Giants on this podcast. He's not what you want because he's not the stereotype you need to fit your ideal version of the culture, yada, 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 yada. Dak Prescott would have gotten paid way before he did if he was Tony Romo.
Anywhere else.
No, not only anywhere else, if he was Tony Romo, because Tony Romo never had to wait the way Dak Prescott had.
No, absolutely.
And Dak Prescott has all the X factors. The game's on the line, and I have the confidence in him to deliver the football to the wide receiver. Can he just catch it? I don't have that confidence with my quarterback. But again, I think the issue is when you break down the Cowboys' success since Dak Prescott has been there, the success is more Zeke than him. And I think that's the issue. And I think that's what people can't wrap their minds around. Like, yeah, he looks the part. But for some reason, this team is better when he's not the focal point of the offense. But that's the weird part. You don't need him to be the focal point of the offense. Like, you need a quarterback that helps you win. And Lamar, like my Lamar Jackson point,
but that's
like how many times do people are like, oh, well, he only had, he went 9 for 10, but he only had 200 yards and 3 touchdowns.
No, you're right. But I guess that's for the people that say, but that's why I'm not paying him as the top quarterback in the league, is because if you're not the focal point of my offense, and like, you know what I mean, like that's where it's like apples. That's where
but that's that, and that goes to that old bullshit, good old boy mentality, because. So quarterbacks that are on losing teams that throw for 5,000 yards a year, they can get the bag. But a quarterback that's on an 8-8 team that has a great running back. So
I'm about to say, let's not ask if they're a winning team.
No. But hear me out. So these quarterbacks can't get paid because they have a good running back. But the same teams ain't paying the running backs because you're a running back. So no one's getting paid.
No,
you know what I mean? Like,
I guess you. I'm just explaining the anomaly.
It's not an anomaly. I'm pointing out the bullshit these teams spread about their own players and why they won't get the bag. But if you're a stereotypical Sam Bradford type and put up these bullshit empty
it's
numbers,
basically Kirk Cousins versus Dak Prescott, right? Kirk Cousins is going to throw for all the yards, throw for all the passing. He's maybe a winner. Like, that's a debatable. And he's stealing money. But then Dak Prescott, all he does is win. Not really, but all he does is win.
All he does is not lose.
Right. All he does is not lose the game for you. But their success is more on Zeke's shoulders, not his. So it's like, how do you pay those two quarterbacks? What's the value there? On dollar signs. So that's the issue, because he's not Patrick Mahomes. He's not Aaron Rodgers. But the problem also with the NFL is, even though it's weird how the NFL does business, it's really next man up. So he was just the next guy up. So he's going to be getting the bag. Whoever's the next guy up after him is going to get a bigger bag.
Oh, him getting hurt and them having to put out Andy Dalton and run with somebody. Oh, if it's just Zeke, yada yada yada. We'll just run more and all this other crap.
Yep, absolutely.
You paid him. You paid Dak.
All right, let's look ahead, because week 4 has some great games. Obviously, Brady going back to New England is probably the biggest headliner, right? Mm-hmm. But there's some really, really interesting games. Starting Thursday night, Jaguars, Bengals. I know it's not like interesting in that aspect, but you know what? It's 2 young quarterbacks, 2 young teams. Can the Jaguars get a win? If the Bengals win, I believe they'll be 3-1 and be leading the division. You know what I mean? Like, that's really interesting to me. Panthers, Cowboys, like I said. Seahawks, Niners, Cardinals, Rams. There's some really good games this week.
Cardinals, Rams is going to be interesting. I'm excited for the Thursday night game. I get to see 2 young quarterbacks I haven't really got a chance to watch like that. So I'll definitely be checking for that, which is surprising because, as you know, even in the time we've been doing the pod, Thursday night games, sometimes I don't even click on them. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, you're not watching. Why? Why am I wasting 3 hours of my time watching mediocre football at best?
Even Raiders, Chargers. Like, the Raiders are 3-0. The Chargers are 3-0. They beat the Chiefs.
Is that in Vegas or is that in LA?
That's in LA, I believe. That's Monday night in LA.
Oh, it's Monday night in LA. Ooh, Gonna be more. It's gonna look more like the black hole than a Chargers game.
which is sad. I mean, look, SoFi Stadium, from everything I'm hearing, is phenomenal as a stadium, and both LA teams are playing well. So I hope, and it's funny they have the same colors basically. So I hope that if the Chargers are going to play well, I hope they can get some fans there. You know what I mean? Like that. It's sad that that's not a thing that they don't have home fans. But look, they have a young quarterback. I'm sure Miami's kicking themselves for taking two over him. They have a young quarterback who's playing phenomenal right now. They have a really good team. I'm hoping that some LA fans start, saying, you know what? I'll root for the Chargers. I'll root for the Bolts.
And if I was out in LA, ain't no way I'm rooting for the Chargers over the Rams. Like, and also if I lived out in Cali, I'd probably be a Raiders fan, all things considered.
Right.
So I'm one of those people that completely disagree with everything you said. I'm a hip hop head. If I lived in one of those areas of Cali where it's just like pick your team, would have been the Raiders. Never would have been the Chargers.
I feel like if you're a Clippers fan, you should be like, you know what, I'll root for the Chargers.
Actually, the Clippers fans I know that are from Cali are Chargers fans because honestly, if you grew up in the San Diego area, you're more likely to be a Clippers Chargers fan than anything else. Like both of them simultaneously. But we out here in Jersey, it's just weird because we have so many different teams. It's usually a combination. The only thing that you kind of see,
it's usually Jets, Mets, Nets.
No, I know a lot of Jets, Yankees fans. I know so many Jets, Yankees fans. That's what throws it off. Is baseball, because the baseball doesn't really correlate with the other.
Well, that's what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be Jets, Mets. But yes, you're right. There's a lot of.
Yankees. Oh yeah, I know. Look at me. I'm a diehard Nets fan and a Giants fan. I understand that like I actually should be a Knicks fan because it goes Yankees, Giants for me. So everyone goes, oh, you're the Knicks. No, I'm from Jersey.
And to be honest, I'm the anomaly too, because if I'm rooting for a New York team, it is the Jets. I hate the Giants. I'm a diehard Yankees fan, but obviously, like I said, we're a Nets fans. So even
before we wrap up, go ahead. Talk about the Jets a little bit.
How terrible they are?
I don't know. Hey, you would be a Jets fan. I'm saying they had to play. They played this weekend, right?
Did they?
Greeny, because they don't play any weekend.
But did Greeny, they play or did they show up?
They just showed up. Greeny was on ESPN radio yesterday, Monday, talking about how apparently Saleh. You gave him credit. It's a rookie year. Give him a break. He's the first-time coach, first-time coordinators, all this crap, right? But he said they look really great during the week, just not on Sundays. Like, don't. And Greeny's like, you don't say that in New York. Like, you just like you not understand what you just did. Like, could you imagine your coach coming out there and going, "Well, we looked really good on Wednesday."
I mean, look, I feel really bad for Jets fans, especially they got to be looking at Sam Darnold, just like, bro, why? Like, just why?
Why? Because here's a spoiler, Jets fans, and most Jets fans know this, so they're just saying "fuck you." See, why are you even bringing this up? But the problem is you didn't build around him.
You
didn't. And you had Adam Gase. Like I don't even want to hate on the Jets as an organization. Adam Gase had weapons and chose not to use them because, like, I don't care what anyone says. Le'Veon Bell was a better option than how he was used in New York.
Yeah, that was stupid. And I hate to say, because somebody brought this up too. It's sad because even with all the rookies, and they're all struggling, right? They're all struggling. Zach Wilson has looked the worst out of all of them. Well, and that's including Justin Fields, who didn't even like complete a pass.
I don't want to see. Yeah, we'll probably talk about the Bears some other time because it's not like fire Matt Nagy. For all the Bears fans listening, shout out to Sam, boxing writer on Dope Block.
Matt Nagy's got to go.
He's got to go. But besides that, just talking about the rookies, I've seen Wilson the most because I get Jets games and I watch Jets games. I'm not a Giants fan that's a Jets hater. I want the Jets to be good because I want to see good football when I'm not watching the Giants. And he has looked terrible, but he's looked bad in the way that we didn't expect, because when we were talking to our friends that were hyping him up, he's doing what I thought he could do reads. And some of his second and third decisions are terrible.
BYU kid. It's not BYU kid.
Yo, but that's the crazy part, man. It's like, I understood why they wanted him over Justin Fields, but you're telling me Justin Fields wouldn't look that bad in New York? I think anybody would. So I like is he really trash or is it just the Jets? And if it's just the Jets,
but then here's nothing. But then that's another thing. He has a better supporting cast already than Sam Darnold has. I don't care what anybody says. Like you said, they didn't use Le'Veon Bell, so Le'Veon Bell doesn't even count. He has a better supporting cast than what Sam Darnold had, and he looks just as bad, if not worse, than Sam Darnold.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Well, and that's a whole nother can of worms. And we have a long season. I'm sure we'll end up doing a whole episode on the Jets eventually. The way they're playing, like like me and you talk about our teams, but the Jets are going to be a story, and the Bears, if they don't fix their shit,
by
are
the
going
way,
to be a story.
For the people watching, and I know we every last couple weeks has been Steelers Panthers. To me, and maybe I'm biased, those are two of the most fascinating stories right now. We're seeing the end of an era in Pittsburgh, and we're seeing we're seeing a reclamation project go great in Carolina. So to me, those are two of the more exciting stories of the NFL season so far.
Well, and if you would like us to talk about some other storyline that we haven't talked about, hit us up and let us know. We'll do it. Half the time we talk about these teams, because our friends are the ones being like, "Hey, you didn't talk about the Panthers, and they did this," and I'm like, "Bet I'll talk about the Panthers." If there's some storyline we're missing, I have goosebumps because I feel dirty. I just gave the fucking Cowboys props on this. Don't tell me I can't be objective. Like I feel dirty.
Comment below, man. Who are we not talking about enough? We will talk about it.
You know what we haven't talked about?
Because I'm sure. I mean, listen. To be very honest with you, like I said, the Steelers season is done, so I don't even need to talk about the Steelers.
Oh, the Steelers season is done.
Much
more. The Steelers season is done, Brett. The Steelers season is done. Oh,
it is. It's over.
Good. Welcome to the couch. So look at draft picks with me. Look at this fucking wide receiver from South Florida. Who gives a fuck? The Giants are so trash. They're so trash, and we have talent. That's the most annoying part. You look at certain positions, you're like, this guy can ball. And it's the coaching. It is the coaching. That's the only thing it is, because we can still suck, but we shouldn't suck this bad. And the GM is trash. I've been saying that for years. Look, where's the O-line, Brett? Where's the O-line we were supposed to get in the last 5 years?
I don't know.
Me neither, bro. We're like, the only thing that he has addressed over the course of his tenure that is adequate or above adequate at best is the secondary. The secondary isn't complete trash. Okay,
to be fair, he's tried to address the offensive line, but no matter what button he pushes, it's not working.
Oh yeah, his draft picks have been garbage. Those are fireable offenses.
Yeah.
When your top 5 fucking left tackle isn't even really cutting it to be playing with the starters in preseason, you should get fired.
No, you should. He should be fired. He'll be
all right. Tell them where they can find you, bro.
You can find me at Never For Brett Me. That's NEVA_4 BRETT_ME on Instagram and Twitter.
I'm at Not the Chuck D on all the socials. We are at the Dope Blog, _Dope Blog on Instagram, the Dope Blog, all one word on Twitter, www.thedope.blog. And we are a Facebook group discussing other people's excellence, where it's pretty much me shit posting about Brett. It's a lot of fun. You should check it out.
And if you're watching this on YouTube, please subscribe, share, and comment. Let us know. We love y'all. We appreciate y'all.
Yo, hell yeah, we appreciate you, because you want to know why? We're two dudes just talking sports, and there's people out here that get millions of views and all this shit, and they're just numb to it. We put out a feature-length, 2-hour-long pod out of nowhere on YouTube, and at least 40 fucking people took the time out of their day to watch us talk about football for 2 hours. We are nobodies. And don't act like we think we're the shit. We just think we're dope because we're dope, and we're just saying thank you. We are so appreciative of all that. So the mixture of having 40 people on there and however many downloaded the actual podcast too, thanks. This gives us an outlet, which is us having fun and talking, and we appreciate everybody that takes the time out to message Brett and let him know he's a fraud, to tell him how full of shit he is, that he's not really a Panthers fan. All you people taking your hard time from your day to go insult Brett just because you know I'm right, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Have a good time.